Canada head coach John Cooper here to take questions. Please raise your hand, wait for the microphone. We'll start front right.
Jim McBride, Boston Globe. John, you've been on the other side of Brad Marchand a lot. I'm wondering what it was like to have his energy on the bench last night, and was he one of those guys you described in overtime that was...
I can hardly tell you're from Boston. He's everything I hoped for and probably a little bit more. Kid definitely has fire in the belly. He's got a lot of passion for the game. Nobody works harder than him. I didn't know him when he was younger, just coached against him. And, he's always played the game on the edge. He's been on both sides of it. But you bring him to an event like this and, he just bleeds the red and white, and just whatever role you put me in, I will, lay in traffic for you. And that's the type of kid he is. And, you kind of see that from afar, and then, you don't know how his personality is, but he's great. He's a voice, especially when you have a lot of the young guys and guys that haven't been maybe on this big a stage before. He's a voice, and it's much needed.
Right side, second row, Ryan.
So Sid arrives, and everybody knows he's a little bit nicked up. He skates in every practice. He takes the optional. Last one to leave the podium last night. He's on the rink first thing this morning with Nate. Can you just maybe discuss the commitment there and the passion? And those two just kind of want to seem to soak up all the ice together that they can.
Yeah, those two they're hockey junkies. It's really cool to be a part of them. They everything is about the game, and they talk about the game, they live the game, and you don't see that a ton. And when you rise to this level, you can have a tendency to take your foot off the gas or get used to the life, or all those I've watched it countless times with players, but those two, they don't take it for granted. And you can see players watch them, they watch what they do. And I think when you leave these events, you're going to take away the experience and the euphoria and all the things that happen, but you hope you take away the example of what the leaders and the guys that really have a passion for this, how they act, how they conduct themselves. As you said, when they show up to the rink, what they do at the rink, how long they're at the podium, when they stop and talk to fans on the street, and all those things that just promote the wellness of the game. And those two guys have it.
Front left, Kevin.
Kevin, Toronto Star. How much can you share about your plans for Travis Sanheim, like who he's going to play with and how you're going to deploy him?
Yeah, it's obviously he's checking in. Big body, can skate, can play at this tempo. What exactly and where he's going to fit, it's hard to divulge now. Plus, we have 2 more days to kind of get our heads wrapped around that. But the unfortunate part is he would have probably checked in at some point in this tournament. I just hate the way he is checking in, and I'm sure he probably feels the same way. You never want to really come in for a guy that gets injured, and but this is my first experience with him, and he's one of the guys soaking it all in and taking in the environment and how these experiences can do nothing but help his game. And it's excited for him to play, to experience this, but more than that, I know he can play, so he'll be just fine.
Front left, Stephen.
Steve Warner, Associated Press. You talked about a lot with Connor McDavid and the coming out party. What was it like to coach Connor McDavid on a Team Canada?
Okay, how do I say this? You're watching as fast a hockey with as much pace as you could possibly see. And like tonight's game's going to be the same way, and Saturday and so on. And he still brought you out of your seat, just because of the plays he can make at such a high rate of speed. And I'm like, well, this is the fastest the league gets. Doesn't get faster. And then he still is like just a cut above in that speed department. And to be able to process, the game at that high rate of speed is, it's a unique ability that he has. So, but on the bench, it's all team. It's all he's attentive. He's into it, and he's a horse. I mean, you just can keep playing him, and so it's you marvel. But now I've got like a legit front row seat to it, and it's pretty cool to see.
Front right, CJ.
Two quick ones, John. The logistical question, will Shea Theodore spend any more time with you guys, or does his situation mean he's leaving town?
Well, ultimately, I guess that's going to be up to Shea. First of all, it's all about what's best for him, not where he's going to be, but, to make sure he's in the best spot so he's ready to come back and play in the regular season. So I think that'll be first and foremost. But in knowing him and what's gone on, if he has any choice, he'll be here with us.
Great. And have you and the coaches, this will sound like a joke question, but I mean it seriously, have you started thinking about a forward that could maybe fill in on D in the event perhaps you had another injury back there?
Yeah, that's it's tough because I think there's some gray in what happens next. And so it's, you have to think of all situations and everything that happen, but it would be tough for me. I can't imagine that anybody that's in charge is going to let us play short. I mean, that wouldn't be, I think, right for anybody. And so, it's unfortunate because injuries are part of the game, and especially at the intensity these games are played at and the will these guys are putting out on both teams. It's you can't help but think that, you hope it doesn't happen anymore, but there's a chance it will. And, but, if we're allowed to dress 20 and 18 of them all forwards, and we just play it that way. But I think, I don't know, all of that'll work out. It's above my pay grade though.
Left side, third row.
Hi, John. I know that Shea Theodore can defend, and I know that Travis Sanheim can provide some offense, but you could argue that the makeup of your blue line changes a bit now. When you look at the speed of the game yesterday and what you can expect from the Americans on Saturday, is there somewhere a silver lining in bringing in a guy who's got such a high defensive mind to add to your defensive core?
I don't know if I could say that. I think, Theo, it was just tough to lose him because he can break pucks out. He can play with pace. He's like a gazelle out there. How the ice he covers. Sandy's, he does much of the same things. The difference is, Travis, kills penalties. Whereas Theo, that's not as much his forte. Now he was more, a kind of a power play guy for us. So that's probably the major trade-off between the two. But they both can skate. They both have length. There are a lot of similarities to them, other than the special team. So, and it's never a bad thing to have another penalty killer.
Take 3 more questions for Coach. Back right, Luke.
That's such a random number. 3. Okay. So now and if one guy asks 3, then that's it.
Luke Foxworth said, John,
I don't even know where's Luke.
Sorry. Yeah. So in the last minute, I think you had a shift to all 3 Tampa forwards for situations like that, or 3-on-3. If you end up in a 6-on-5, how much of that do you already have pre-planned for special situations like that, and how much are you just going off feel?
There's a lot of feel to it, a lot of familiarity as well. Tony and Hags are kind of been a pair for quite some time. Kill penalties together and whatnot. But, Pointer's played with them a lot, over the years. So there's, like I said, there was, obviously, Pointer can up the speed of a line. I thought he was playing well last night. And, there was a couple shifts that, it did happen. I think it was circumstance that dictated it. But, whether we go back to that or, whether we mix these lines up, it's still, working on that stuff right now. But that's something I'm, not afraid to go back to.
Right side, second row.
Hey, John, two-parter, but it only counts as one question. So I only want to take one. We saw McKinnon and McDavid together a couple times in overtime. I'm wondering how much thought you put into that before the tournament, or again, a feel thing with the speed of those two guys. But within that, Nate said he was gassed after that overtime. He never coached in a 10-minute overtime 3-on-3 before. So looking back, playing your best versus the energy level.
Actually, you know what? This is shame on me. What time was the goal scored? 6:06. We were getting close to the scrape. So, those guys were. Well, it's hard because the pace of play they're playing at. Plus, these guys are in, world-class shape. But part of what gasses you too is the adrenaline of the game. Now the game's been played for 2.5 hours, and they've been a big part of it. And it's and there's just so much. It's it's a lot of skating in that overtime. So, and that's why we have to have, multiple guys going out there. You just can't go with your 4 or 6. You need, a bunch of guys lined up. But, those guys were feeling it when they're out there. And so I'd be remiss if I wasn't going to put them back out there.
Last question.
And they weren't saying no.
Hi, John. I know you had a front row seat to Devon Toews in the finals 3 years ago. Now you coach him for the first time. What stood out in his game? And
you could have said I had a front row seat when he played with the Islanders as well and left out the finals part. But great, thanks.
So you had a front row seat 2 straight years then.
Anyway, I'm sorry, what was the question?
No, that's right. But just so what did you know of him prior to yesterday, and what stood out now that you coached him?
Excuse me. He's paired with arguably the best defenseman in the game. And so when you're kind of riding shotgun, everybody's looking at the driver and sometimes you're not looking at the passenger. But Devon Toews is far from a passenger. I feel that he's kind of, if a play's at risk or if, he allows Cale to be Cale. And then he'll clean up if there's ever an issue with that. And he's not going to get a lot of fanfare. He's not a guy that's out there saying, look at me. He just goes out there and does his job, and he does it really, really well. And he's got, he's kind of blessed with, he can navigate his way around the ice. He makes good reads. He does all these things you need in a defenseman. And oftentimes it goes down, you'll hear the saying, well, if I didn't notice you, that's probably you had a hell of a game. And the reason you don't notice him is because he just makes all the right plays all the time. And he is a really, really steady, excellent defenseman. And especially for a guy that's not the biggest guy out there. And so now you have to think a little bit more, and he does that really well. And that's a great little tandem they've got going there in Colorado.